A lot going on. In addition to the continuing resolution that we were just talking about, there's a lot of attention that also this week has been directed towards the National Defense Authorization Act, which just passed moments ago. And there were several concerning and, frankly, woke provisions that Democrats attempted to cram in on their way out of power. So did they succeed in cramming in some woke priorities? Well, here now to discuss this and answer all the latest questions that we all have is Quena Gonzalez. He's a senior director of government affairs here at the Family Research Council, and he has been spending a lot of time hanging out on Capitol Hill. Quena, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks for joining us.
It's great to be at this desk and back from the Hill, Jody.
Yeah, you've been spending a lot of time there, and I must say there's been a lot to deal with. So tell us, what's the breakdown for us, the most concerning provisions within the NDAA? Was it good, bad, ugly, indifferent? Where do we stand?
Well, this is a bill that passes every year for the last 63 or 64 years, Jody. So as you can imagine, as you know, because you were on the Hill, I don't have to explain to you, but for our viewers, as they can imagine, Democrats love to attach all kinds of cred to this bill because if it goes into the bill, it must pass. Without this bill, troops, funding levels, their salaries, things like that are set by the bill, so the bill must pass. And yes, there are many things that we're tracking in this bill this year that liberals on the Hill were either threatening to put into the bill or actually did try to put into the bill. It followed a bit of a convoluted path, this being the 118th Congress. Things have been convoluted all this year and last. But the final negotiations of the bill, there were three main things that we were watching to see if they would be included. Actually, two that we were watching, and then one that sort of came out of left field. One was whether or not women would be forced to sign up for the draft. That was a major priority by liberals on the Hill. Another was whether the military would expand taxpayer funding for IVF without consideration for some real serious pro-life concerns about how that was being expanded. The issue that got all of the attention when the final draft was released and voted on, first in the House and then again today in the Senate and passing, was that the bill strips out or put into law, I should say, for the first time, protections for minors, for children, military kids, from being taxpayer-funded gender transition procedures. So,
wow. Yeah, that's huge.
That's
a biggie.
Yeah.
All right, explain why this is so huge. In fact, say it again, and then tell us why this is so important.
Yeah, so for the first time in federal statute, there will be some protection for some minors, children, from gender transition procedures that are paid for by taxpayers. And this focuses on the military, and so this applies to military family kids. Taxpayers will not be paying for surgeries, for cross-sex hormones, for puberty blockers that unnaturally delay puberty in minors beyond the point at which puberty would naturally occur. And this is important because this is an issue that FRC and our allies all across the country have been fighting for about 7 or 8 years, first at the state level and now at the federal level. And this is the first time, this is the first bill of its kind to protect minors from gender transition procedures.
Yeah, so let me underscore that this is the first time. So that means we now have precedent of defending children. And also, I go back to what you said earlier, this is a must-pass bill. So now it's going to the president's desk. So more or less, he's got to sign this thing or else he's got mud all over his face by not funding the military. So you expect him to sign it, don't you?
Yes, I believe that Joe Biden will be the first president to sign protections for minors. I don't believe he'll be the last, but he'll be the first.
Wow, that's amazing. So why did Democrats backtrack on all of this? What's kind of you've been on the Hill. What's kind of been the battleground on all of this?
Yeah, the conversation about this really started earlier this year during this long election year that I'm sure most of us are glad is finally over. But right after so during the election, Democrats really highlighted this issue of gender ideology and pushing gender identity, including gender ideology as it impacts children, and painted those on the right as bigots. And amazingly, after the election, right after Kamala Harris's loss in the presidential election, two prominent Democrats came out on the Hill and said that they blamed the election, at least in part, on the left's radical dedication to gender ideology. They felt that the party had gotten out of step, radically out of step, with the American people on this. There was an effort today to try to attach an amendment to the bill that would have taken that language out and sent it back to the House. That failed. It failed in large part because even Democrat leadership in the Senate, where they control the Senate, realized that this is a losing proposition for them and a losing issue. And so they just went around that amendment. They did not attach it. They sent the bill on to the president for his signature.
So overall, scale of 1 to 10, a 10 being fantastic, 1 being horrible. Where does this NDAA stand? I mean, overall, it sounds like we had some pretty significant wins in this.
Well, viewers and listeners could be forgiven for having whiplash, but we're living in a sort of moment right now where we have to recognize that this particular bill was negotiated between the Republican-led House, the Senate, the Democrat-led Senate, and Joe Biden. So 2 out of 3 of those people at the table were pushing for all of these issues to be attached. So the fact that they were not attached, in my book, is a major win.
Yeah, major win. I agree with you. I'm just, I'm elated while we're talking. And of course, this passed just a little while ago. So, and it seemed like yet another one of those things that it passes while people are trying to throw stuff on it and attach other stuff to it while it's in process. So this really is some encouraging news that you're sharing. Less than a minute left. Quena, are there any other concerns about this, or we feel good with it?
I'm very happy with where this year's NDAA passed. Next year's NDAA will be passed by a Republican House and a Republican Senate and signed by a Republican president. And that'll be very exciting to see. And we'll be working hard to make sure that conservative principles are further enshrined in that bill.
Thank you so much, Quena Gonzalez, FRC's Senior Director of Government Affairs. Appreciate so much you joining us on Washington Watch. God bless you.
Great.